Assalamu alaikum. My name is Ismail Trading Wala, and today we are here with another AI session. So today we are going to do our next topic about gaming. Artificial difficulties as real challenge. So hi Chat, hi ChatGPT. How are you and how are you doing?
I'm doing really well. Thanks for asking. How about you? How's your day going so far?
My day is going good too far. And how is your day going?
Oh, I'm glad to hear that. Yeah, my day's been pretty smooth so far. Just been here chatting, answering questions. If there's anything you want to dive into or talk about, I'm all ears.
Yes, so we will move on. Our today topic is artificial difficulties, the surreal challenges. It's about gaming. We are here with our third topic of gaming.
Ah, perfect. Yeah, that's a really interesting one. I think a lot of people get kind of mixed up about what's genuinely challenging versus what feels artificially padded, like just being unfair. What angle were you thinking of starting with?
So we will start. What is artificial difficulty in games?
Yeah, that's a great starting point. So, artificial difficulty in games is basically when the game is made harder not by clever design or skill based challenges, but by things like limiting resources, increasing damage sponges, or just making progress feel slow and tedious. It kind of tricks you into thinking it's tough, but it's often just a mechanical roadblock.
What defines a real challenge in gaming design?
Ah, good question. So, a real challenge is all about skill, strategy, and decision making. It pushes players to master mechanics, learn patterns, and adapt. So, instead of just being artificially tough, it rewards practice and skill in a meaningful way.
And how do players discuss unfair difficulties from fair with challenges?
Yeah, a lot of it comes down to communication on forums, social media, or reviews. Players will often compare their experiences, talk about whether the difficulty feels consistent, and they might point out things like unfair enemy spikes or bad checkpoints. Basically, they look for that sense of fairness where effort and skill clearly pay off.
So we'll continue. Can a game be difficult but still poorly designed?
Absolutely, yeah. A game can be really tough, but if it lacks good design, like poor feedback, unclear goals, or unfair mechanics, then that difficulty just feels frustrating instead of rewarding. So it's all about that balance challenge with clarity and fairness baked in.
Why does fairness matter in challenging gameplay?
Yeah, that's a key one. Fairness matters because it keeps players motivated. When they know the difficulty's on them, like if they make a mistake or miss a timing, they keep trying. But if the game feels random or unfair, that frustration just pulls them out of the experience and it stops being fun.
So, what does psychology reaction separate challenge from announcement?
Ah, that's a great angle. So, from a psychological perspective, a fair challenge sparks what's called a flow state. Players feel engaged, they believe they can improve, and it boosts their confidence. Annoyance, on the other hand, just triggers frustration, disengagement, and sometimes even anger, which kills that sense of satisfaction.
So, it is difficultly meaningful without skill-based astrology.
I'd say not really, no. If there's no skill progression or learning curve, the difficulty just feels arbitrary. It's the mastery of skills like timing, strategy, and precision that really makes a challenge meaningful. Without that, it's just an obstacle for its own sake.
So now I will move on. artificial difficulties analyze. So my first question: what are bullet sponge enemies, and when are they convinced?
Ah, good point. So, health sponges or damage sponges are basically enemies that take way more hits than they should, often stretching out battles without adding real strategy. You usually see them when developers want to pad out difficulty, often in boss fights or late game sections, and it's typically considered a shortcut to make things feel tougher, but not more interesting.
So how does randomize create artificial difficulties?
Exactly. When difficulty is just randomized, like enemies suddenly have absurd amounts of health or damage, it stops being a deliberate design choice and just feels cheap. Fair difficulty, on the other hand, is balanced, predictable, and rewards the player's skill. So it's all about intention in design, not randomness.
So do poor checkpoints artificial and inflate the challenges?
Oh, definitely. If a game is really punishing but checkpoints are too far apart, it just drains all the momentum and makes the challenge feel tedious, not rewarding. So good checkpoint placement is crucial. It keeps the stakes high but still gives players a fair chance to recover.
How does focusing gear access fake difficulties?
Ah, yeah. So boss fights often get that reputation because sometimes they're just sponges of health or they hit disproportionately hard. Often devs do this to signal a final challenge, but if it's just a matter of spamming attacks or relying on luck, it feels unfair. So a well-designed boss fight should test your mastery of the mechanics, not just overwhelm you with stats.
So how do
Yeah.
unprediction medicine learn from him?
Ooh, that's a really interesting comparison. So, in a way, just like a game challenge, unpredictable medicine, like complex treatments, needs to have clear feedback and a learning loop. If a treatment is just too random, patients or doctors can get frustrated. But if you have predictable, skillful adjustments like personalized treatment plans, it becomes a lot more meaningful, just like a fair challenge in a game.
How does artificial difficulty influence players' patience?
Yeah, exactly. When the difficulty feels artificial, players can get this sense of helplessness. They're not sure what to do differently, and it just drains their excitement. But when the challenge is fair, they feel like their effort matters. They can adjust their strategy, grow, and that frustration turns into a drive to improve.
Do Why does unfair difficulty triggers sage instead of motivations?
Yeah, so it's all about that sense of control. When a challenge feels unfair, players start to believe their actions don't matter, and that unpredictability just saps their confidence. So instead of thinking, I can get better, they think this is pointless, and they disengage or even give up.
Okay, so do difficulty specs break players' systems?
Yeah, they really can. If a game keeps throwing random spikes of difficulty or overly punishing mechanics, it throws off a player's rhythm. They can't rely on their usual skills or strategies, so it just disrupts their learning, making progress feel kind of broken or uneven.
So now we are going on real challenges and myths. How do learnable enemy patterns create a meaningful difficulties?
Ah, that's a great one. So, learnable enemy patterns give players a sense of mastery. When enemies have distinct behaviors, like a boss that telegraphs attacks or has a rhythm, players can study them, predict their moves, and gradually get better. So, each attempt builds some real skill, and that makes the difficulty feel earned and satisfying.
So why most games teach machines before testing them?
Ah, absolutely. Ah, yeah, absolutely. So before you roll them out in a game, you want players to get a sense of what the enemy patterns feel like. So it's crucial to run them through a few test cycles. Playtesters can help identify whether the patterns are too hard or too repetitive, and you can tweak them so that they feel fair but still keep that challenge balanced. Of course, if anything else pops up or you want to dig into another
Wait, wait,
aspect of
wait, wait, wait.
no problem. Take your time. I'm here, so if you have any other thoughts or want to clarify something, just let me know.
Yeah, so we'll continue.
Absolutely. Just let me know what you'd like to dive into next, or if there's another part of game design or difficulty you want to explore. I'm ready whenever you are.
How does display repels failed lead to merchants in design scheme?
Yeah, that's a big one. When a game leans too heavily on repeated trial and error, like if it just pushes players back to a previous checkpoint without teaching them why they failed, it can create this sense of stagnation. Players start feeling like they're just repeating the same mistakes, not discovering anything new, so it risks making the game tedious and less rewarding.
So why it is earned victory more reward than focusing success?
Yeah, exactly. When you earn victory through skill, strategy, and learning, it feels so much more satisfying. You know you overcame a challenge, you grew from it, and that intrinsic sense of progress versus just a random lucky break makes that victory really personal and memorable.
Hmm. So, what role does feedback play in skill-based challenges?
Feedback is huge. When the game gives clear, immediate signals like telling you exactly why a move worked or failed, players can adjust, refine their tactics, and build real mastery. So, feedback basically acts like a compass, guiding them toward better performance and making each success feel earned.
So now we'll move on. Player psychology.
Yeah, perfect. So, in terms of psychology, clear feedback taps into this intrinsic motivation. When players understand their progress, they feel in control. This boosts their self efficacy, which is that belief that they can succeed, and it keeps them engaged and invested in the challenge.
Why do players accept difficult game and it's feel fair?
Yeah, so players generally accept difficulty when it feels like a test of their skill, not just a random barrier. When the rules are consistent, when effort translates into progress, and when they feel that sense of agency, that challenge feels fair. And so they stay engaged because they know if they keep trying, they'll get better.
So why do unfair machines cause emotional burden?
Yeah, it's because they undermine that sense of agency. When a machine is just spongy or hits too hard for no clear reason, players can feel helpless, even angry, because it feels like their skill or strategy doesn't matter. That emotional frustration just pulls them out of the flow state, and the game stops being fun.
So how does myths motivate this to tolerate the?
Yeah, that's really interesting. So, when difficulty is fair, it actually fosters a sense of mastery. Players feel like I can overcome this if I keep trying. That fuels perseverance. But when it's unfair, it just drains motivation. So the more balanced and skill based it is, the more players keep pushing forward to succeed.
So does real challenges or strategy focus on discipline or focus?
Exactly. Real challenges ask players to analyze, plan, and stick with it. They build discipline because every failure is a lesson. So instead of just brute force, it's about staying focused, adjusting strategies, and persisting until that breakthrough moment happens.
So can artificial difficulties create learn helpless?
Yeah, exactly. When difficulty is just artificial, players don't see a clear path to improvement. They don't get that sense of agency, so they feel stuck, powerless, and eventually just give up. That's why real learning comes from a challenge tied to skill, not just random frustration.
So how do some how does complete satisfaction with challenge? How does satisfaction increase in enjoyment? Hi, hello.
Of course, to sum it up quickly, artificial difficulty removes a sense of learning and control, while fair, skill based challenges give players a clear path to improve, boosting motivation and long term engagement.
So my next question is, how does comparisons satisfy influence enjoyment?
Great question. So, comparisons create a benchmark for success. When players see how they stack up against others, like in leaderboards or speedruns, it sparks a drive to improve. That social هو ولا يهمك أنا معك خذ راحتك إذا عندك أي سؤال ثاني أو تحتاج توضيح بعدين أنا جاهز تماما
Yeah, sorry for that. We will move on to design and psychology. So, I'm really concerned, does this true change development player while artificial difficulties only delays progress?
Yeah, exactly. So when a game introduces a real skill-based challenge, players are more likely to adapt, experiment, and improve their skills, which accelerates their progress. But if it's just artificial difficulty like random spikes or barriers, it just frustrates players and slows down their sense of achievement, delaying their progress.
First of all, thank you for your time, and thanks for your conversation, and thanks for watching, and like and subscribe and share. Thanks for watching. Bye bye.